Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today, and I have a review here for one of my favorite childhood games ever, one of the first ones I ever had for my PlayStation 1, matter of fact. That's what the review is for here, now that I replayed quite a bit of this. Rock'em Sock'em Robots Arena for PS1. But I also hear that the PS1's called PSX for some reason. I see this listed that way all the time online. What is the difference? Is that like a PS4 and then a PS4 Pro? What is a PSX? Can somebody explain that to me? Anyway, Rock'em Sock'em Robots is in the title of this game. What is it? Well, it came out like a week after my birthday. I think I had just turned 6, if I remember correctly, if I'm doing the math correctly, in the year 2000. And my friends and I loved this game as kids. It was a fighting game, and I suspect that it was one of those things, kind of like He-Man and kind of like G.I. Joe, that it was a game coming out alongside new toys that I know I had, and I'm pretty sure I got them like either right before or right after this game came out too. So I'm assuming all these things were launched at the same time, but the toys were like based on a lot of the figures from this game, and I think there was at least 4 different ones. They even had like a commercial for it on TV from what I remember. But essentially it's Rock'em Sock'em Robots but updated for a modern audience, and not in the way they say that nowadays. No, it was like they were very stylized robots. It's kind of like a mech fighting game. Think of that Hugh Jackman movie, Real Steel. It's kind of like that, but cool. I haven't seen Real Steel, so I can't really judge it that way. But, for example, the original Rock'em Sock'em Robots guys that you play on the board game, which that's one of my favorite games ever. It's a very easy, childlike game to play, and it probably breaks even easier now than it did back in the day. It's made of very fragile plastic. Those original red and blue Rock'em Sock'em Robots are like the announcers in this game for the big like boxing matches that they have with these gigantic mech robots. And they're really fun. I love the intro to this game. It's super cool. There's no like story mode per se. There is a career mode, but it's kind of like what PS1 game career modes were, where you had a game come out and it was more about how it played and the aesthetic of the game, the soundtrack, that kind of stuff, over top of really any kind of narrative or anything. It was more about the experience. It was a pick up and play type of thing. This game is like that. And I'll tell you out front, I love it. It's still good. I have not played this in probably 15 years, and it is just as good now as it was back then. It's just as difficult as it was back then, and when I was a kid, and mind you, I had some of the toys from this game, some of my favorites from this game, which, by the way, I like the design of almost every single robot in this game that I know of, because I've never beaten the game all the way through. I didn't beat it this time, playing it today on my day off. But it's still so cool, from the intro to this kind of underground techno soundtrack they have for this game. I don't know if that's the only track that plays in the game or what, but it's so nice. It plays really well. It's a game that, as it goes on, I got halfway through a career mode where it was like you had a bronze belt and then you had a silver belt, and I'm assuming there's a golden belt. I got about halfway through the silver belt gameplay, career mode, challenge, whatever, before I decided to put it down because I was getting my ass whooped. And I'm not the best at fighting games. Dragon Ball Z, Budokai 3, and Infinite World, those are about the best I can get with a fighting game. And those are like the ones for me. Like, they feel like they were made for me. Like, I feel like I could go to a tournament and beat people's ass in a tournament in that game, or those two games. But here, not so much. This doesn't... I feel personally like this plays better than X-Men Mutant Academy, which I just reviewed. I love Mutant Academy. Really good game, can be tricky. But sometimes that feels a little stiff compared to this, in my opinion. I've never played Marvel vs. Capcom, as far as I know. Maybe an arcade version of that at like the theater, but I don't know if I could compare this rightfully to that or not. This game plays good. The AI are too fucking smart. We call these kinds of games button smashers, but we forget a lot of the time, especially on the PS1 and PS2 types of games like this, that the AI that you're playing against when you fight the computer, Not when you're fighting your friends. I feel like this game would be way more fun fighting your friends if you can figure out combos and stuff correctly, which I had such a difficult time with this. I still don't understand how to use all the abilities. There are certain ones you should be able to shoot like rockets. There's like a SWAT guy in here called Stakeout that I beat the first time I had to fight him in the career mode. The second time, he beat me, no joke, like 1,000,000 times. And he shoots like fucking RoboCop bullets. So, like, I don't know how to do that. If anybody else happens to know, please let me know in the comments so I can try that out, and I can go back and kick his ass. And root for me, pray for me while I do that. Anyway, the game itself, it's such a fun game to play, and the AI is the fucking button masher here. I've tried everything. I tried being more defensive when I played, and trying to use the block button a lot more. And sometimes you don't really know if your character's actually blocking or not. Sometimes, depending on what you're playing as, the stance isn't very different. This time around, I've played as all of these different characters over the years. I love the one with the samurai sword. He's really sick. It's like for his actual arm. But this time around, I decided to play, I think he's called like the Red Blocker or something. I can never remember his name. But he and the Blue Blocker, or whatever they're called, Red Buster, Blue Buster, whatever these guys are called, they're like the newer updated versions of the original Rock'em Sock'em Robot guys that are basically WWE narrators in this game I talked about a moment ago. And I like both of their styles. The red one was always my favorite as a kid. He looks just cool. He looks like a robot in boxing attire. He kind of does the jumping in place thing, like jogging in place that a lot of boxers do when they train. But like you have all these other different robot mechs that you can fight with, more that you can unlock later on. One of the coolest ones that's in the intro a whole lot is this one guy that like looks like a bulldozer. And he has like a wrecking ball for a hand. He's super sick. There's one that's like very lizard theme. I think they had a toy of him back in the day, but I don't know if I had that one or not. But the designs are so cool. It's very 90s and very early 2000s in this case. You can tell it was being made in the 90s. I think overall, from what I could tell on YouTube, the career, if you're able to beat it easily, it's about 45 minutes, thereabout. I think I played for like an hour today. Had a really good time playing it too. And it brings back so many memories, but it's cool when you pick up a game like this, or Mutant Academy I talked about a moment ago, and they just hold up, and they make you feel like you're at home again from when you were a kid. Now, I didn't talk too much about this part. I think this is a really cool, refreshing idea. I don't know if a fighting game ever had this option or not, but since these are robots, and in the intro of the game they tease this too, during the fights, you can actually beat someone up so bad, if the fight goes on long enough, that like, if you hit them at a certain spot over and over again, kind of like the actual board game, if you can call it a board game, their arm will fall off. Or both of their arms, I believe, can fall off. I'm swearing, I think I saw this before when we were all kids playing this. But, like, you can kick and punch and stuff, but, like, if you lose an arm, that particular button you assigned to that arm, like, you're kind of doomed, right? So, like, you could hit less and less hard as the game goes on in the middle of a match. And they have time limits, too, and I think the time limits, to me, go by pretty quick. There was no difficulty setting as far as I could find. If anybody happens to know if there's an adjustment on that, let me know. It'd be cool to be able to change that. But I didn't see any option on any menu. Because I would like to beat this game. I just don't think I could. Because, again, Stakeout, I finally beat him here, and then the next guy, whoever that was, in the silver belt area of the game, he kicked my ass. He wasn't laying off, man. He beat me up so bad. Now, as you do the career mode, every time you win a match, you get money, kind of like a real boxing match. And you can buy parts of the other robots you fought. So, for example, I mentioned the bulldozer guy that you fight having a wrecking ball arm. You can buy that if you beat him. Like, you can buy you can buy other arms, you can buy other legs. That's really all the customization allows. And, of course, it's cool if you start out red and then you have, like, a yellow arm and a blue arm and stuff. Not because of color correction, but just because of other people you beat and you took their parts. Because you beat them. It's kind of like a trophy, to be honest. It's kind of fucked up now that I think about it that way. But the game is super cool with that. It's just, I'm pretty sure, because of when you fight these other guys, They have abilities that I have not been able to unlock no matter what kind of combo of buttons I've mashed. So I don't know what the secret is. I'm just letting you know up front. I'm not very good at the game. Like I said, now that I get older, some fighting games I can be fun at, but racing games are really my forte. You know, that's my relaxing game place. Not really even horror games anymore. But this game I wanted to be better at, and I'm better at it than I was the last 15 years ago when I played it, and before that as a kid. But not by much. You know, I got a lot further in the game today than I think I would have back then when I was a kid, or compared to the patience I would have had as a kid. And I still had a great time. I wish they made more games like this, and they sometimes do with things like Rocket League, where it's just very simple, but tricky. That's the way this game feels. It's very simple. You fight in an arena, you get different arenas to fight in. By the way, I really like the way those environments look, man. And the sound design is really good too, in my opinion. And I feel like with practice and more of a defensive attempt to play this game, I feel like you'll do a lot better than I did. Maybe with more practice, I could be better at it, but it doesn't feel like it's completely cheating. Like where it's pulling impossible moves on you that there's no way you could beat them on. Not anything more than like a Mortal Kombat game, but patience. Patience is really the key here, but the clock runs out pretty quick. You know what I mean? So anyway, Rock'em Sock'em Robots Arena for PS1. If you haven't played this, dude, this is such a fun time. I love it. Everyone I've ever shown the game to loves it. My wife isn't home right now, so I didn't get to show it to her yet. But sometime I'm going to play this in front of her. Maybe sometime this weekend, I don't know. But everyone I've ever shown the game to really digs it. And every time I ask people, have you ever heard of this game or played it? They don't know what I'm talking about. They don't remember the toys and how they were made of metal, and they were like some of the only toys aside from Transformers that were ever made of metal. They were cool. You could like take them apart and change out the arms and legs and stuff, take the torsos apart, the heads off. It was really sick. And yet no one remembers it. So anyway, have you played the game? What do you think about it? What do you think about the board game too? Let's do a conversation in the comments section about the old board game of Rock'em Sock'em Robots and whether it's actually technically a good game or not. So anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.